Welcome to the Intuitive Rising podcast. I'm your host, Amy Brooks. Up until about 5 years ago, I was your average mom of three. It was after the sudden loss of my father that my life changed forever and the rising within me began. Since then, I've embraced my gifts and have stepped into my role as an evidential psychic medium, past life reader, higher self mentor, holy fire Reiki practitioner, and published author. In this podcast, we will talk all things spiritual and healing through a very grounded and relatable approach. I hope you'll continue to join me each week, remembering who you always were as we rise together. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Intuitive Rising podcast. I am your host, Amy Brooks, and I'm excited for you to listen to this episode today. I have the pleasure of introducing you to a friend and fellow lightworker, Brandee Bolton. Many of you may be familiar with her already, as she has an amazing podcast. I hear so often that people find me through her podcast, or vice versa, as I've been a guest on her podcast, Spirit Talk, multiple times. And she's been a guest on my other podcast, Soul Rising, that I co-host with a dear friend of mine, Erin, many times as well. But this is new for the Intuitive Rising podcast. Brandee is a very talented psychic medium. She is a Reiki practitioner. And she's just amazing in all ways. I love the way that Brandee's brain works, and I love how she says things. I find her extremely insightful and really, really easy to listen to and learn from. And so I wanted to share her with you. In this, we talk about numerology. We talk about what numerology is, how to calculate some of your numbers, like your life path number. She does a beautiful breakdown of all of the life path numbers, 1 to 9, and then also the master numbers, 11, 22, and 33. So you can figure out what your life path number is and then listen to her description on kind of what that means for you. We talk about the energy of our own unique voices, and this really aligned with, a message that I've been thinking about. In fact, I spoke about it earlier today on my Insta stories, and then this came up kind of really organically and spontaneously during our conversation. And so I thought it was so aligned, but about how we each have a specific resonance and energy with our voice. And, we really were taking this guidance and advice for ourselves as people that show up and speak to the public with our podcast and with our businesses as spiritual practitioners, about how somebody else could say that. There could be 10 other people talking about the same thing, but somebody somewhere needs you to say the thing. They need to hear what you think, how you come to the table. You have a unique experience and you have unique things to say, and the way you say it is different than anybody else, because you're different than anybody else. And so I really want to share that. If you can take anything out of this podcast, overarching message is that you are unique and you have a specific energy about you, and it's important. It's part of this great wheel of life. It's one spoke on the wheel, and it's important that you are here and that you're sharing your own message in whatever way you choose to do that. So I'll leave you with that. There was a few aha moments here for me, including a number that's been following me here on this podcast, and I've mentioned it. You guys that have been listening, throughout will know that in the last couple of months, there's certain numbers that seems to chase me when I'm recording the podcast. So I'll look up and I'll notice that I've been recording for a certain number. And that happened during this podcast as well. And then Brandee kind of blew my mind when she told me what that meant. I just looked down as I looked, 333. So, okay, the numbers are speaking. Perfect segue. I hope you enjoy this interview with Brandee Bolton. Hello, everyone. Hello, Brandee. It
Hi.
is so nice to see you again.
So good to see you.
We're just chatting off camera. We decided to bring the party onto the podcast. Not really. We're talking about eclipse season and hair changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just told Amy, I just started taking scissors to my hair and just chopping away in eclipse season. It was a whole thing.
I've definitely done that before. I don't know if I've connected it to eclipse season or anything with the moon or planets or anything like that, but I've definitely done that before.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Any when I look back at life, I see like any major change, or if I was really struggling or going through some sort of challenge, I always would do something with my hair.
Mm-hmm.
You too?
And sometimes it's taking scissors to it in the bathroom without any plan.
I've done that so many times. I really have. I also like have some little bangs that I didn't have before.
Yes.
Yeah, and you know, I think you have curly-ish wavy hair
I
like
do.
me.
Yeah.
So it doesn't always behave, but that's okay.
It's wild. But that's kind of what I was going for. I was like, I'm really kind of sick of just putting my hair in a ponytail, so let's get it in my face and let's get it wild and free, and that's truly what I did. I wake up and I just wash my hair sometimes, and it's just what it is, and that's kind of what I was looking for. So, you know, a lot of people would call us a little bit kooky for doing that. I think we're similar in a lot of ways. I know we are.
Yeah, I used to always call myself, I'd often label myself impulsive. And maybe a little, but I feel like I've begun to reframe that too. So it's not so much it's impulsive, it's maybe extremely intuitive, in tune with what's going on with me, and ready to act immediately.
That's what I was going to say. Like a highly creative and a highly sensitive person.
And you know what's funny too? I actually just did a reading with somebody yesterday, and they asked me the question about, like, you know, she said, I listened to your podcast. I know your story. I know how this came about in your life, and then you just did it. But like, what happens in between? And I was like, nothing. I just did it. And she goes, that's pretty ballsy, don't you think? And I'm like, I think I'm kind of a ballsy person sometimes. Like when something's aligned with me, I just do it. And so, but do you find like when you just do something and you act intuitively on something, maybe impulsively, somebody else might call it that, I don't regret those things, do you?
No, not usually.
Not usually.
But I will say that you have that, I think, a little bit more than I do with regard to like taking the leap right off the cliff. Yeah. Yeah, because I remember when I met you and we were voice messaging and texting and stuff, and I had got a glimpse of your story and how you started in mediumship, and I was like, holy Dinah. She did just do it. Go girl.
I did. You know what though? I really and truly believe that I think there's some past life stuff there. I think that I was just ready to do it. Like, so, and it might have seemed like it came out of nowhere, but I think it was a lifetime of preparation. I'm sure you agree, like in your life, a lifetime of preparation.
100%. Yes.
Yes.
But do you see me holding up my finger?
Yeah.
You're a life path 1.
Okay, so does that connect to that?
That is like, 100%. It's like, first of all, it's the first number. So it's like always needing to be first, like first in their own life, and first, like, they're not a follower. They're like an inventor and a person who's like really gifted with getting an idea and doing it.
Oh, I love that.
Who is a famous one? Nikola Tesla.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and
I love that
his
for
mind just, I love that for you too. I love that for you.
So when we talk about life path number 1, that's a really good segue into what we're here to talk about today. A little bit, we're here to talk about all things. We're going to let the conversation flow, but we are going to kind of talk a little bit about numerology, which is, I don't think it's the way that I connected or met with you, but it's one of my earliest interactions with you was seeing that you were offering numerology reports. This would have been like in 2020, I think, maybe the end of 2020. And me saying, sign me up, I'll do it. And you sending me a numerology report. And I thought it was like so cool and so interesting and so validating.
Cool.
So, yeah. So, numerology. What is numerology, Brandee, for people that aren't really...
Goodness.
It's a huge topic.
It is. I love it. To me, it makes sense. Like, it kind of ties in the logical brain into the intuitive brain. Like, I just like how it kind of mixes and matches both of those things.
Yes.
Numerology is the relationship between numbers and real world events. It involves the study of the symbolism of numbers. Okay. So each number holds a specific vibration.
Yes.
And kind of like astrology, it's, you know, an individual signature that you're born with, and your numbers really make up the puzzle that is you, a little small part of that puzzle. And, you know, it isn't new. It's been around for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And the history goes way, way back. It's kind of hard to say exactly. ancient Babylon even. But Pythagoras of Pythagoras theorem, and you would have learned about him in math class and all that stuff, a Greek mathematician and philosopher. He was the one who reportedly was the first person to really organize the study of numbers into what we're calling numerology. And, you know, a lot of people, when they first start to awaken or reach new levels of consciousness, they see repeating numbers or specific numbers over and over again, like 111, 222, or their birthday or whatever. Yeah. Some people assign meaning to those numbers. Some people just simply see it as like a confirmation from the universe that they're on the right track. There's kind of a few different camps there with seeing the numbers, but either way, every one of those people who are getting those numbers, it's kind of an understanding that numbers are a form of communication from the universe. And it's like a universal language. You know, we have thousands and thousands, I think maybe up to 6,000 or so languages on Earth. And they're all so different. But numbers remain the same for everybody. So with the knowledge that numbers are like a universal language and everything carries a unique vibration, and you kind of pair that with a little bit of surrender to mysticism and being okay with not fully understanding it, why wouldn't your birthday or your name have a deeper meaning? I am of the belief that we choose these things before we come in with a soul contract. So, and that's all tied in. And in numerology, the main personality numbers are derived from your birthday and your name, and they translate into numbers. So you can easily tell your life path number just with your birthday. You don't need to do all these calculations with your name and everything like that. So we can talk about it more globally like that. But yeah, it can get quite deep. I do like to tend to look at it from a zoomed out perspective, but it can get into karmic lessons, karmic debt. I
remember.
And it's just absolutely fascinating. Yeah.
It's very fascinating. I was kind of nodding and smiling when you're talking about you feel like that we I also feel like we choose our birthdays for sure. And also our names. And I was smiling because I think I shared this with you, but I definitely shared it on this podcast, that I feel as if my 3 children named themselves. Like, they joke around saying they named themselves because their names came to me by way of dreams. So, you know, and especially with the boys, they weren't names that I had on my list. They weren't names that I ever thought of using, but I dreamt of them when pregnant. And then when I woke up, I'm like, there was no turning back. Like, it didn't even matter what my husband said. I'm like, I'm sorry, I just can't move away from this name. This is his name, you know? Like, I can't call him anything else. You can have the middle and last name. I got the first name. But yeah, I feel like they chose their names.
Yeah. And you were tuning into the energy of them already because they are in existence as a soul before they come in. And so, yeah, you're highly intuitive, you're psychic, you're medium. And mediumship is not just communicating with people who have passed in your life. It's also, you're able to communicate with your baby before they come in.
I certainly did. Awesome? It is awesome. Yeah. But I also think whether or not you're like, you call yourself highly intuitive or psychic or a medium, like, I'm sure there's many listeners, I think most of our listeners probably are leaning into that and discovering that about themselves. But maybe like your average person might have a name that just keeps coming to them, or they're dreaming about it, or they're seeing it on you know, like a street sign or what have you, or somebody's talking about that name and you're like, that name keeps showing up for me. I think that's a universal experience a little bit too, maybe.
Oh, 100%. But you know, I believe, like, just if you're not doing psychic work or mediumship work, doesn't mean you aren't psychic. Everybody has this ability. Yes.
Yeah, so it's whether or not you call it that, like my baby named myself, or, I don't know why, but this name just kept coming to me when I was pregnant, so I liked it, went with it. Yeah. And you and I might go, a little bit more to it than that.
Exactly.
So I love that. So with, like, this is a little off topic, but not really. What's your take on, like, I've heard people talking about this before, like, so if we choose our birthdays, do you think we also choose, like, if we were to be born by C-section, we would choose that too, right? Maybe?
Yeah.
The date.
Yeah. A lot of things around. Oh, choosing the date if you're born by 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've had people say, oh, this was a scheduled C-section. Maybe like they were supposed to be born on a different date and I like messed it up, and I'm like, no, I don't think that's how it works. I think if a date was given, it was meant to be that date.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
To us, it's like a miracle that that's even possible, but there are so many things going on behind the scenes, behind this 3D world that we're in.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't matter how the baby comes, the date is chosen.
Yeah. Which is it? So the life path number we've talked about. So if somebody was wanting to like dive into their numerology, I can link some stuff in the show notes of, where to go to find that information. Is the life path number probably the most important one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Like, it's similar to astrology in that there is a lot that you can dive into if you want.
Yeah.
If you just want to cruise by and see what's going on, have a cursory knowledge of it. Life path is like your sun sign. So if you say you're a Sagittarius, then you would say your life path number. There is a lot more to it, but that's a general oversweeping, overarching theme to your life. Yeah.
So numbers can be 1 to 9, correct? And then there's master numbers.
Right. So to find your number, you take your birthday and you just like line up all the digits individually. So like if you're born in December, 1 plus 2.
Yeah.
Because there's 2. So you take your whole birthday and write it out in numbers and add each digit individually until you get a number. Now, if that is a double digit, usually it will be, say it's 36, then 3 plus 6 equals 9. So you reduce it down, you boil it down until it's a 1 to 9, with the exception of the master numbers, which are 11, 22, and 33.
Oh.
So if you get an 11, a 22, or a 33, you stop. But that's how you calculate your life path. And yeah, there is tons of things online. If somebody's confused in hearing me speak it out, it's not the easiest thing to follow. But you add all the digits, and what you get is what your life path number is. And it's 1 through 9. And the master numbers 11, 22, and 33, which also, if you are a master number, you should read your corresponding single digit number as well.
So like
I am an 11, but I also read 2. And sometimes a master number might not even kind of embody the vibration of the master number in their life, depending on, how their life goes. They might always kind of be a 2 energy anyways.
Right.
Yeah, so that's how you find it, and a master number isn't better than having a regular number. It's not better or worse. In fact, master numbers, if you do have a master number, especially as your life path, it indicates that you have kind of really an intensified life, which means intensified obstacles, but as well as a heightened potential in your life. But master numbers can take a really long time for a person to, master.
Yeah.
So this potential sometimes isn't even reached until way later in life, if at all. Or, you could have a child who's fully embodying their level 33 master number. Yeah, but it is a different vibration, and it is definitely chosen. A lot of times people with master numbers also have a load of karmic debt and karmic lessons, and they're kind of pairing that number to be able to overcome a karmic cycle in their evolutions of their soul. So, yeah.
So is that what a karmic debt is a karmic cycle?
So a karmic debt, as per how numerology describes it, is if you have karmic lessons.
Right.
So when you're in a in between lives and you're choosing your life, this and that I didn't really get in my last few lives, like whatever it may be. Abusing power or something like that.
That was one of mine.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Most people do have some karmic lessons. I've seen people without any at all.
Very cool.
And they have also a beautiful mix of numbers in the rest of their chart, and I feel like, oh wow, they really came here to be light and free.
Yeah.
Not that life doesn't have its difficulties, but so you have your lessons. and you come in with them, and if you really aren't getting it in this lifetime, it becomes debt, meaning it's something that you now must really resolve. Yeah. And it's just so that our soul learns and grows and gets to where we want it to be. It's not anything anybody else is really putting on us. It's our choice. Inside. It's our so sometimes I've seen people just loaded with it, and I go, wow, you really signed up for this. Like, holy smokes, are you in it?
I think that's beautiful. That's such a brave, courageous thing, which I think the soul is anyways. I think my number was like 13/4.
Oh, for your...
my karmic debt. So I remember reading about it, and I remember going,
you had karmic debt. Yeah.
That makes sense for me. Yeah.
So when a numerologist looks at the whole chart with the name and all of the numbers, if they get 13, 4, 14, 16, 19. So 13 just becomes 4 because 1 plus 3.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So 13, 14, 16, and 19 are the karmic debt numbers.
Yeah.
So if you had 13, 4, it is because in previous incarnations, you had this creative kind of energy that was misused. Yes. So instead of using it for good and really growing with it and shining your light, you may have become superficial, kind of slacking, not using that creativity. You could have been using your words, because you could have been really creative in your words, to spite others, be gossipy, things like that. And it doesn't mean you're a bad person. Every single soul goes through these kinds of things, and when you're in the life between lives, you're like, I really didn't get that right. I could have done such and such, and what I did was not that. So let's go ahead and put this into a debt so that we can really, really get on top of this and evolve.
And when we're in between lives, as that soul, it's not a judgmental thing, right? Like, we really need to give ourselves some grace when it comes to karmic lessons.
Other souls and beings are not judging us.
I know. We
are judging us, though.
That's right.
I do believe that even as a soul level.
Do you?
It's not,
okay.
Yeah, it's not like we have no, everything's love and light and we have no regrets and all this. We don't think about other people and judging them, and other people aren't judging us. But sometimes when you're floating up there and you're like reviewing your life, eventually you get over it, and you're also learning surrender. But just because you're a soul not in a human body doesn't mean you know everything and you're perfect.
That's right.
That is why there is an evolution. So yes, sometimes we are judging ourselves. I've even seen numerology charts where I'm like, damn, they were really, really harsh and just tried to overload this to feel resolved, and oftentimes that doesn't work. Oftentimes that's just getting you stuck in many more, or you have to take it and live it over 4 lives, not 1. It's sometimes impossible, right?
Yeah.
So I do think we sometimes judge ourselves.
I love that point of view, actually. And as you were speaking, I was kind of reframing it in my mind. Judging might not have been the right word. I think it's more of like owning it, like taking responsibility for it, versus like what we might do in our kind of human selves of like being defensive and being like, like blaming everybody else, versus just like taking responsibility and owning it. That hits better. Okay.
Yeah. Just because you're a soul doesn't mean you can't be a little bit self-deprecating in a way.
Yes.
And even souls who have been around and lived many lives can be not so perfect to themselves.
Yeah.
But we have soul groups and soul families, and they are there to help support us.
Yeah.
We aren't alone when we're over there, and also we're not in a sea of billions of souls. We're with a crew.
Yeah.
and they're there to be our teachers, and we're there to be their teachers as well. So we're so supported.
Yeah, I was smiling because I was just thinking in my mind about Ainsley MacLeod's work.
I love him.
Right? He has a few books, but one called The Instruction. And I actually just listened to a podcast last week where he was a guest and he talked about all of this kind of stuff about soul groups, soul levels, 1 to 10. Your soul
I have to get
type.
some of his books.
Do The Instruction. It's really, really great. It's and there's also the Old Souls Handbook, which I don't have. It's amazing. So there's like kind of like little quizzes in it as well. So you can go on his website as well. It's Ainsley MacLeod, where you can kind of figure out what your soul number is and what your soul type is. And it's not just one type. It's like kind of a hierarchy of like, this is your main one. So my main one came up as, what did it come up as? Spiritualist, I think. Makes sense. And then it was caregiver. Caregiver was like right underneath it. I can't remember them all. Thinker, I think, was number 3. But it's really cool to just kind of see how that influences your life.
Ooh, it is. And I would love to see if people's numbers correspond to, because I think he has a creative, like, are you a creative one? Yeah, he has a number of different
Performer
soul
comes
types.
up. There's a bunch of
3. Them. Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I'd love to talk to him
3
someday.
is a performer? Because when you were talking about, like, how do we calculate our life path number, I was, like, I know what mine is, but I was doing my husband's. So, and he's a 3. And then
self-expressive creative.
Okay. Interesting.
I'll give you keywords for all of them if you want.
That would be awesome. Let's do that. People would love that.
Number 1s are independent individuals. Okay. Yeah. And with 1s, they can be leaders or innovators or a combo of both. All of them are not excellent leaders. All of them are not excellent innovators. Some of them lean into one or the other. Yeah. Sometimes they are ahead of their time, like Nikola Tesla. He had all these innovative ideas, but people weren't following him or listening to him. He was genius before his time. He was suppressed a little bit, but that's a whole nother thing. 2 are cooperative peacemakers. They are, and if you look at the number 2, they need to be with people. They need to be in partnerships. They need to be cooperating, and they're excellent peacemakers. So they're between people who are not seeing eye to eye and helping them to come together, things like that.
Yeah.
3, self-expressive creative. There's tons of 3s on stages. There's tons of 3s who are musicians. There's tons of 3s who, in their everyday life, whether their career matches 3 or not, are quite funny, quite quick, quite communicative, similar to a Gemini energy. 4 is the dedicated worker. So, and 22 boils down to 4 as well. So, dedicated worker, a person who really makes sure structure of things is sound, whether metaphorically or in real life. Like my sister is a 4 and she's a construction worker, literally.
Okay.
And they don't cut corners. They want things done precisely.
Yep.
Yes. 5, freedom-loving adventurer. This person really doesn't want to be nailed down to one thing for a very long time. Also, and just through my own work, intuitive work with numerology, I've noticed 5s are very mediumistic. And so if you see your life path or like a predominant number is coming up within all the rest of your numbers, say you have 3 5s, but your life path number isn't 5, like you, I think that was the case for.
I'm bringing up the chart right now because I've still got it in my email. So I know I have a 5 because you said messenger, I think.
I think you have more than 1 5, but if you don't, it is like quite a mediumistic number. Number 6, responsible caregiver. A person who is very nurturing, very much looking after everybody. They can get burnout if they're not also turning that inward to look after themselves. But they're like a pivotal person to have in community. 7s are really the seekers. They're really spiritual a lot of times. They are the contemplative truth seeker. If they aren't spiritual, they're really throwing themselves into some kind of topic and really trying to get down to the bottom of it. And oftentimes they don't get down to the bottom of it because they really love deep things to contemplate, and their questions just bring up more questions, and they're okay with that.
I love it because my current name number is a 7. I love it. So since I've taken my married name.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So once you took on that new name, your last name, you started to embody that 7 more. And isn't that true? Because you didn't become a medium until you had that name.
Well, after that,
And 7s do need more alone time than other numbers, usually. And number 8s are the business-minded leader. If an 8 and a 1 get together to mesh their ideas and want to really start something, they could literally rule the world. And 8s are quite logical and good at just figuring out business, how to do commerce, and whether that be in making actual financial money or trades or whatever. There's always been 8s, and we need 8s. I need 8s in my life. I do.
Yeah.
9s are compassionate humanitarians. So 9's the last number, and 1 through 9, it often is a cycle. A lot of times 9s will be quite old souls, and they will choose 9 because they are really ready to be pushing out their energy toward helping, especially helping groups of people or causes. Like, it could be with animals or people or whatever. Like, if they want to be a PETA member, or, because they are all about helping animals, or, things like that. And then you get into the master numbers, 11, 22, and 33, and one kind of informs the other. So 11 is the inspirational teacher, the seer. They aren't really as much the doer as the seer. They can see how things would fit well together, and they can envision. They're very, very visionary, and the most psychic number, really. 22, master builder. So they take the vision of the 11 and they actually make it happen. Think number 4 with being about foundations. Well, 22 and 4 are the same. The master builder, so they can really make ideas that the 11 and all the other numbers have come to fruition. Number 33, and this is like a Christ consciousness number. This is a really, really big deal, but they don't get a lot of attention because they're oftentimes quiet, on the quieter side. The master healer. So they facilitate healing for the whole group. Their energy to be around really just is really comforting. And I haven't seen very many 33s, and those that I have are usually walking a spiritual path.
That was the question I had. How many 33s have you come across? Amazing.
Not many, and the ones that I have are spiritual teachers. And if they aren't, they're feeling that nagging feeling that they need to get in alignment because they really have so much to give. And they need to start channeling that.
Amazing. That was an amazing breakdown. I could see myself in a few different ones. So I've got my chart up that you sent me back at the end of 2020. So I've got life path number 1, destiny number 5, soul number 1. So soul and life path the same.
Ones.
Yes. Outer personality number 4. It's interesting. Maturity number 6.
Okay. So as you age, you become more and more nurturing. More about taking care of other people. And really giving.
Birthday number 9. And current name number 7.
Where was your 5?
Destiny.
Oh,
So what does that mean? Like, basically, like, how does the life path versus destiny versus soul number differ?
Yeah, the destiny number is like just under the life path number as how much it influences you. So it is like the second most influential number.
Excuse me.
And So for that one, we need the name, and each letter in your name corresponds to a number.
Right.
And so you can find your destiny number that way by writing out your name, finding the number for it, adding it all up.
Right.
It's really, it can be, okay, so the destiny number, people can call it the expression number, or the name number. There's a few different names for it. And it really gives a broad outline of opportunities, challenges, lessons that you're going to encounter in the lifetime. And just like the name says, it is your destiny. So for you to become a medium and your destiny number is 5, to me is, I love that. You won't find anywhere online that 5 goes along with mediumistic qualities. That's in my own kind of knowledge that I've put together intuitively. But so it's already residing within you,
right?
But it needs to really be activated within your life and utilized. If you aren't tapping into your destiny number and really leaning into that, you'll feel out of alignment. And you'll feel kind of this feeling like, something's not quite right. But it is a number to take into consideration when choosing a career. It is your destiny. So yeah, you already have it all within you, but it's something that needs to be activated.
Expressed.
And so it makes sense when you're using you as an example, because at some point you got this activation and really started embodying that 5. And freedom-loving adventurer, well, what's more adventurous than dealing with the dead?
And
having the freedom.
Yeah, freedom is huge. And just like even freedom from like the constructs of things, and just kind of, figuring things out as I go, and dismantling old belief systems, like all of that, I feel like has this root of freedom. Like that's a huge part of my medium. Like that's a huge part. Somebody just recently asked me, how has grief changed? Because I've recently lost my grandmother. I think you know about that. How has grief changed since you've become a medium? I feel like I still feel grief. I'm sure you've felt grief since, because you're a medium as well. Right? We haven't talked about who you are, really. We're doing this. I'll do an intro video for this, so I will definitely introduce you. But you are a medium. Are you doing that like with clients yet? Is it like something that you're...
I have been for years, and it's just not an official offering.
Behind the
scenes. So people message me, and we work it out, and we set a date.
Love it.
Yeah, it's this thread out there of people who tell each other and whatever. Yeah.
Is it
I do about one a week, really.
That's amazing. Blows my mind how it's like word of mouth, right? It's just like one person. Like I remember in my first few months of mediumship, somebody, like when I first started taking paying clients, I had somebody in Indonesia and somebody in Australia, and I'm like, how did you find me? I'm like, I heard from this person, they heard from this person. I'm like, holy, like the world is much more connected and small than you would think.
Yeah, and I don't even have a website or an offering or anything
I love
yet.
that so much.
Eventually one day I will, but so I am amazed too, and I always ask, like, how? How does
this happen?
So yeah, I know, I love it.
Yeah, where I was going with that is just like, life in general. I feel like my perspective on life has changed, obviously, since I've become a medium, and I'm sure that you found the same. But when it comes to things like grief, which we all experience, we still experience the grief, but I just have found peace within it as well. And I'm more likely to just surrender to the grief rather than, I don't know, like embodying the grief.
Or being in resistance to it.
Just feeling it. Just feeling it. So it's been coming in waves. Like there's days like where I'm not crying at all, because this is quite fresh. It's only been 2 weeks. There's days that I'm not crying at all, and there's days that I'm like cry for 5 minutes and then I'm good. Move through it. So I feel like that's it. Mediumship for me has impacted my life in so many ways beyond just like, hey, I can probably speak to my grandmother at some point. I haven't just yet.
I was just going to ask you, have she shown up for you with signs or anything like that yet?
With signs, yes. So I have shared this, but I'll share with you because I don't know if you saw my post. I posted about one of the main ways that she's been coming to me, and she actually came to me yesterday this way. Did you see the story?
No.
Okay.
Tell me.
So I did reveal it in like an earlier episode with another guest, but not everybody catches every episode. So this might be new for some of you listening. It's certainly new for you, Brandee. So the day that the week that she passed on a Wednesday. We kind of knew it was coming. She was in hospice care, and the day before she passed, I was supposed to go and see her, and I had plans to go, and my family was like, you really need to get there, like I don't want you to miss the opportunity to be there, but just stuff happened and I wasn't able to get there. It was a 3-hour drive away. And so that night, the night before she passed, I said, please, like, if you can and you're not in too much pain, can you wait till tomorrow so I can come and hold your hand and give you a kiss, and the next day I got up early and drove down and spent the morning there. In an hour, so she passed that day, 30 minutes after I left the room. An hour before she passed, at this point it was just my mom, my cousin, and I in the room with my grandmother, who was not conscious, not aware, highly medicated at this time. And we all just, our attention was drawn to the window. So her hospital bed was placed in front of 2 sliding glass windows overlooking the city. And these 3 mourning doves landed on her balcony. Okay. And my cousin is there every day because she lives close by and she's also in nursing. And so she comes every day to make sure my Nana was being taken care of properly and advocating for her and all that. And she's like, I've been here every day for a year. I've never seen any bird land on her balcony, let alone 3. So we're like, this feels significant. So we take out the phone, right? We're videotaping it. And they stayed there for over a minute. I don't know the exact amount, but they were there for way longer than you would expect. And the one that was closest to the window was like this, literally looking right at my grandmother, tipping its head, craning its neck, and we're all goosebumps. When you get the feeling, you're like, this is significant, I need to pay attention to it. And my mother can be heard on my video saying, do you think this means it's almost time? And I said, yes, and I think that it means that she's not going alone. And it was an hour later, she left. And the day that I revealed that on a podcast about 2 weeks, so maybe a week ago, 10 days ago, I hadn't seen another one since. It's not a common bird that I see all the time, although I do know that they're a common bird. I went upstairs and I sat at my kitchen table, and was having a cry, make a cup of tea. Tea will always remind me of my grandmother. And I look outside and there's 2 mourning doves sitting on my windowsill, and I was just sobbed, and I was like, oh my God, thank you. I know it's you. And then yesterday I was talking about mourning doves and talking about my grandmother with a client, and then I went upstairs to make a cup of tea, and there's 2 sitting on my fence. So I'm like, oh. So it just very significant. I'm actually going to get a tattoo. I'm getting it in a couple weeks right here. It's going to be pretty big, of a mourning dove, and he's going to incorporate different elements of my grandmother, like a teapot, and cool. Some marigolds and a moon, because I always called her my witchy nanny. She was highly intuitive.
Cool. I love that so much.
It was so beautiful.
Don't you find that birds are often the signs, especially doing readings and stuff?
Yes.
Spirit can manipulate birds, and birds volunteer to be used. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. Sorry for your loss.
Thank you. But even the if you look up what does it mean when a mourning dove comes by, or the spiritual meaning of it, it's all about messengers between realms. Specifically mourning dove. Because the reason they're called that, I guess, is the little noise they make. Yeah. Sounds like somebody mourning. That's upset.
No way. So it's mourning with a U, not mourning the time of day.
That's right.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know either until all of this happened, and I began to read into it a little bit more.
So, also, there was 3 of them, and there was 3 of you in the room. I
said that too. And you know what? The 3 of us that were there was people in and out of the room. My aunt and uncle were there. People were in the room. They weren't there at the moment. And I said that too as well to my mom and my cousin. I said, I think it's significant that there's 3 of them. There's 3 of us. Of everybody that's been here today, we are the 3 believers. The other people would be like no. But we are. And so I felt like that was a message specifically, 3 of you, 3 of us. We noticed it. We knew it was a message. We knew that she was being joined with someone. I'm not sure.
And do you think in the position that she was in, very close to death, that I think this, and I wonder if you agree, is that they can go in and out. They can go back and forth.
Yeah, it's so funny you're talking about it. Yes, absolutely. I talked about this with Erin a little bit on a Soul Rising episode that we did recently, because her grandmother passed away the end of March. And so when we met last month to record a couple months worth of episodes, I actually connected to her grandmother and did an on-air mediumship connection to her. But in that episode, we also touch on dementia and Alzheimer's, which I know is different than what you're asking, but it's kind of similar. And I have felt intuitively when I've connected to my clients' loved ones, whether or not they had dementia or Alzheimer's or not, or they're just kind of in and out, I feel like they are kind of going back and forth. I feel like they're in spirit as well.
100%.
Yes.
And mine is for, like, I almost get that as a symbol for dementia and Alzheimer's.
That's
Alzheimer's.
right.
Like when I feel, he or she or whatever I'm reading. I've had this multiple times, at least 5, at least 6 times. They were going in and out. I said, and then that's my cue to ask the sitter, did they have dementia or some kind of, and I think it also happens with people who don't, like your nanny.
Yes.
What did you call her?
I called her Nanny.
Like your nanny.
Yeah.
It can happen as well, whom didn't have dementia, but that's just because she's so close. With dementia, they go in and out for, it's palpable in their energy because it's for quite a while, because they've had dementia for quite a while. Getting closer and closer to death, most people can go in and out. But I really agree. Feel it in readings for those who have dementia, because they are doing it for, who could be a year, could be, a long period of time where they're going back and forth a little bit.
Well, her husband, so my Poppy, he passed in 2009 from dementia and Alzheimer's. She was his caregiver. For years, he was doing the in and out thing. But I've had him come through in connections with like another medium read for me and brought him in, and he brought up that kind of, I was so confused when I came back, then I was kind of lucid and I'm here like, what? Like, I want to go back to where I was. Like, what's reality? What isn't? But yeah, I've had that come through from multiple people's loved ones in spirit. And then just yesterday, I read a book in like 24 hours. I finished it last night.
Wow.
It is called The In-Between. So it's by somebody that I follow on Instagram. Her name is Nurse Hadley. So
I think I follow her.
Yeah, so she just wrote a book. I pre-ordered it. It arrived on the weekend, and it's only like 200 or so pages, so I was able to kind of, and it was like snapshots of different experience she had as a hospice nurse. And there was a part she talked about where there was a client a hospice client that she was helping, and he had Alzheimer's, and she talked about that and how they go in between, back and forth, like she calls it the in between, because before she started to do that work, she was very religious, had ideas about what the afterlife was, and very concrete ideas of what it wasn't. Did not believe in like people like spirits coming at somebody's bedside and anybody being able to recognize that or talk to them or any of that kind of stuff. And her experiences doing that work showed her that that's a commonality across all cultures, all belief systems, everything across is a universal thing that happens. And so her belief system is totally changed, because most of her hospice patients will talk to, and she'll know it's a sign that it's almost time, because they'll talk to their loved ones and they'll say, my mom is here, like literally right here, can you see her? And so her belief system was totally changed. But I found it a great book. I'd recommend it for you if you're interested.
Amazing.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Yeah, I think it's become a bestseller like very quickly, and I'm glad, because I want people to open their minds up around that a little bit more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So do I.
Yeah.
So do I.
Yeah.
And she became a hospice nurse for a reason, guaranteed.
She talks about that too, how she was like not at all, like that wasn't what she was. Wasn't even planning to be a nurse. She just found her, and then the hospice piece came in, and she's in that field has a lot of turnover. because of the type of work, but she's been at it for, I don't know, at least 10 years now. It was great. Wow. It's a great book. But yeah, literally, I took a picture of the page that she talked about the Alzheimer piece because I was going to share it on my social media, and then we just randomly brought it up today. So I feel like it is. I feel like it's all connected.
Or was it random?
No, nothing is ever random. No. So tell me more about what's going on with you.
What's going on with me?
People love you, by the way. I have so many people that find me because they listen to your podcast and that I've been a guest on your podcast multiple times. And they're like, I found you through Brandee.
Go Spirit Talkers.
Yeah. And I just love the community and how we all just are like, you should check out her and you should check out her. And
I know. I'm all about sharing people. Everybody's voice has a resonance, just like the numbers, just like astrology. Everything has a vibration. And some people are attracted to podcasts, and some people aren't. And those who are supposed to listen. That's right. And it is something about how we say things, what we say, but also just our actual literal voice and what's coming out and how it sounds. And who knows all of the stuff that goes into that. But that's why I'm never one to be like, oh, don't listen to this or don't listen to that, because I want it. I want you listeners. It's like, no, share the wealth. There's somebody out there for everybody. And just sharing spiritual knowledge is something that I know that I'm here to do. Hello, I'm a number 11. That is, about illuminating spiritual ideas. So that's really what's going on with me. My baby is the podcast lately. There's more on my horizon. I don't know exactly how or when or why. I know the why, but how or when that will take place. But yeah, and people can follow me on Instagram and on the podcast where I do episodes about all things spiritual, anything under the umbrella. A new episode will be out later, maybe tomorrow.
I'm excited. I love your podcast.
So that's what's going on with me, and just trying to find balance. June has been a weird month where I do feel like we're being prepared for something. There's a lot coming up, don't you think? So I'm a little bit inward this month and doing work on myself and things like that. Therefore, I do feel, and I'll preface this, I feel a little disconnected, even though I'm not, but I just want to have people relate to this. A lot of people feel disconnected at times. Nobody's ever disconnected from spirit, from your
That's right.
Team, from your spirit guides, from angels, from source. Nobody's ever disconnected. We're all connected to one another as humans and to spirit. And when we feel this way, like we're a little less so, or some people feel like they're disconnected, they never are. But when you feel like that, it is just because you have to do life right now. You have to do life and get some experiences before you can move on. And mediums especially really need to live. They can't always just be doing mediumship. They have to be able to pull from things, and that's their life, and there's frame of reference, right?
Absolutely.
So that's where I'm sitting right now. Not to get too esoteric or weird about it, but that's where I'm sitting right now, and I do feel a preparation, and the rest of the summertime is going to be big. There's a lot of cool stuff coming down.
I'm really
feel
excited
it
for you. I can feel it in your energy. That's really exciting. I was kind of laughing and smiling a little bit when you were talking about resonance of voice and, sharing, because I literally, about an hour before we met this morning, I recorded on my stories that exact thing. Because I had somebody reach out to me, a friend of mine, another spiritual person, reach out to me and say, I'm kind of sort of getting a little frustrated because every time I have an idea of something to talk about on, their podcast or on their stories or put a post out, I see somebody else has done it. And I said, okay, I get that. But I said, for me, let's reframe it. Maybe we're all kind of talking about something because it's in the energy right now. It's something we need to talk about collectively. That's why we're all picking up on it. I said, but honestly, if you think about it, I don't think there's any such thing as duplication of information. you are not going to be the first person that's ever said something in the history of time, right? No. So, and it could be that, we're all talking about numerology this week, perhaps, right? But you could hear, you could hear from 9 other people the same thing that you've said to me, or the same topic. Yeah. But for you, the 10th person that says it to me or to somebody else, it hits differently because of who you are, your life experiences, your energy, your personality, your frequency and resonance. And it hits somebody. It gets them where they 100%. Weren't affected the first 9 times. I said, so don't worry so much about duplication of information. We're always duplicating information, right? But we're unique in how we present it.
Yes, exactly. As long as you're not literally searching out things to copy.
That's right.
It has to come from you. Yeah. But you could accidentally, there is no accidents, but you could literally say the exact same words as somebody else, as long as it's authentic, it's coming from within. If they have heard it 5-10 times, they haven't heard it from you. Exactly. And so sometimes they've heard it before and it hasn't clicked at all until they hear it from you or that person who they're really resonating with, who they're vibing with. It is a vibrational thing. We all find these matches that match our energy, and we can just take it in better,
Totally. I love it. That's something that I remind myself of often. I had to learn that myself because I have an insecurity. My human design 5-1, right? So the investigator, but the insecurity of like having all this knowledge is like thinking that I could never have enough to share. So I like truly, consciously, actively have to get out of my own way and go, I know enough. The people that are following me are following me because of me. And so whatever I have to say is okay. And I just allow myself to do it. Because if you get into the game of like, somebody else has said that before, or somebody else wrote a book about that before, you will completely hold yourself back. And I've seen how I've done that in my own life and in my work.
Yeah.
So now I'm just like...
Comparison trap.
Yeah.
And when you start doing that, it's like, okay, no, time to stop looking outward at all. Like for now. And just come in and really put out what you want to put out. And if you're not putting out podcasts, write out what your thoughts are, whatever, so that you can release it into the world. Sometimes there is such thing as too much of looking at other people. And it zaps confidence,
Yes. That's kind of what we said, because this person had said to me, I've noticed some other spiritual people say, like, if you have to, just start unfollowing people. And she's like, but that feels weird. And I'm like, you got to do what feels best for you, if you're really getting in your head.
Yeah. I love Instagram. And I think I've heard a lot of people say, oh, I don't know how you could love it. Well, I do, because I curate the hell out of it.
What you're receiving.
If it's not for me, bye. Like, bye. It's not personal. They don't even know. They don't know you.
They don't have any idea. No.
And I've literally made friendships on Instagram. Look at us. We're friends, and we met there. So, yeah. And here's the other thing about those ideas and how you talked about, oh, maybe we're all talking about numerology right now because it's in the energy. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
But you're reading it through your unique lens, and like the energies and whatever's in the ethers that we're all pulling at, we're putting it through our filter, so it's never going to be exactly the same. But also, if you have a calling to kind of regurgitate your knowledge out there and put it out there, and you don't, it gets sucked away by somebody else. It's given away.
1000%.
You sat on it, you didn't do it, it's now moved past you, and somebody else is going to say it, and they might say literally word for word what you were thinking.
And that's happened for me. Like, I've literally read a very, very well-known book, and I went, I could have written that book, and I didn't do it. And like, look at them over there, like doing world tours and multimillionaires. I could have said that word for word. I love it. And I also have been shown that visual by spirit before, like kind of this like, information highway, so to speak, in the energy. And it's like, if you have the idea, you have the inspiration, grab onto it. It is for you. It wouldn't come to you if it wasn't for you. But if you don't, it's going to move on to the next person. Yes. So I remind myself of that, and I'm like, why not me? It's here. It's come into my brain. Why not me? Like,
yes,
that's something I remind myself.
And
all
it can
the time.
become a bad habit.
Yeah.
not, sleeping on your ideas all the time. It can become a bad habit. So by getting out of your own way and just doing it, and like what we were talking about at the beginning,
I'm full circle here.
Yeah, you're
this
really
is why.
ballsy. By getting out of that way and just doing it, that's practice of actually being able to get good at it and being able to, get out of your comfort zone with more ease.
I love how that was full. I was thinking of the same thing. I'm like, this is full circle moment. This is what it means to be ballsy. It just means, hey, why not me? It's right here. I'm just going to grab it. Mediumship's at my door. Okay. That's a perfect ending. I think that's a great message for all of us, whether it's mediumship, psychic abilities, Reiki, numerology, whatever it is you're interested in doing.
Yeah.
Why not you?
Yes.
It's there for a reason. Things don't enter your life like that, I don't think, if they're not meant to be explored.
No, and your interests are there for a reason.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but my interest in this kind of stuff, in the medium, psychic, intuitive world, has been there my whole life.
Same.
And it's like a revolving door, and it just keeps showing up, and it's like, I didn't walk through it until I was in my 30s, but I could have, right? I could have, but I also believe in divine timing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You had to live and get those experiences, and
that's right.
And now you're phenomenal and amazing.
Aww, thank you. Well, ditto. I think the same about you. And I hope to have you on multiple times on this podcast. You're just a wealth of information. That's what I love about your podcast so much. It's like the depth of information that you share. It's like,
I get deep.
She's like, you're like a walking encyclopedia. I love it. I love it.
I wouldn't go there, but I do love learning from spirit. I love learning from spirit. I don't know that I'll ever stop doing readings on the download that nobody can order on a website, because I learn from spirit. And I'm really interested in spiritual philosophy, and those spirits that know that give me such beautiful tidbits and information and feelings, and I'm here for it.
Yeah. I love that so much. Thank you so much, Brandee.
Thank you for having me.
I will share all your information, how to contact you if you're
at Spirit Talk 13 on Instagram, and Spirit Talk with Brandee Bolton, which is the podcast.
Yes, and I'll share it all in the show notes for all of you, and we'll share some links for numerology and all of that stuff. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast episode, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Amy. Bye.
Thank you for joining me for another episode here of the Intuitive Rising podcast. If you would like to continue the chats and join the community, please join us over on Facebook and search for the Intuitive Rising community. All are welcome. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider giving it a 5-star rating. If you'd like to connect with me directly, please visit my website at theintuitiverising.com.